Let's talk about an incredibly adaptable project in which students experiment with creative ideas across modes. It's an easy project to plug into a variety of units and times of year, and it's always ready to tap at a moment's notice. It remixes easily for Valentine's Day, just over the horizon, but it could also work well at Halloween or as part of a creative writing unit, or when you're reading any verse novel or graphic novel. This project starts with fiction, moves into verse, and lands in a multimodal combination of verse and imagery. I call it a multimodal flash verse project, informed along the way by the brilliant mode collaborations of Jason Reynolds. Today, I want to walk you through the easy steps to get your students going with this project. Welcome to the Spark Creativity Teacher Podcast, a podcast for English teachers looking for more creativity, more engagement, more joy, and no more scripted curriculum, lesson planning ruts, or boring book lists. I'm Betsy Potash, and I'm honored you're trusting me to help. You're not alone on this creative journey anymore. Okay, so this project breaks down pretty easily into 4 steps. It's going to start by having your students draft a short prose piece. Now, this short prose piece could really be anything. You can tailor the topic of it to anything related to the time of year, to the themes of your current book, to essential questions for your unit. It can really be based on anything, whatever works with what you're doing. Just to give you an idea of how easy it is to adjust this project for different purposes, I've already created 2 different versions that could go along with Jason Reynolds' book, Long Way Down. One where students are working on a ghost story, picking up on the ghostly themes in that verse novel, and another where students are working with a sort of a time window of 67 seconds. Like the overarching structure of Long Way Down, they need to think about one key moment in some character's life and the influences playing on that character, and write their piece of fiction to be structured within just 67 seconds. So those are 2 tiny windows into the many possibilities for adaptation for this prose piece. So in the second step, students are going to look back at their prose piece and they're going to go through and start to look at what they like the best. They're going to star 3 important moments in their prose piece that could tell the story all by themselves. Now, you could do this project having the prose piece be just a paragraph, or you could make it something longer. It could be a whole page. Maybe it's 3 pages. That depends on your students, how much time you have for the project, etc. But the point is they're going to look back at what they've written and start to take things out. They're going to focus only on what's best, these 3 moments that are going to tell the story all by themselves. And once they have those moments, they're going to look at what's the language that really jumps out at them? And how can they change and adapt these 3 moments into 3 separate little puzzle pieces of a story? And then how can they start to break down those story pieces into poems? Okay, so if you're doing a verse novel, this is a great time to take a look at some of the verses in your verse novel. If you're not, you might want to crack one open and show it to students. My model in designing this initially was Jason Reynolds' Long Way Down, and he does such a beautiful job structuring these puzzle pieces on the page to make up his whole story. So he's a wonderful mentor for students to use when they're trying to tell stories through 3 verses. But you can also use any novel in verse that you want to show students, or you can show them a whole bunch of different ones so that they can get a different concept of style from each different author. Okay, so now they've got a prose piece and a series of 3 poems, but it doesn't end there. In the next step, they're going to take a look at our mentor of choice, Jason Reynolds, and look at some of the ways that he's used visual collaborations to go even further with his words on the page. So if you have been around for a while here at the pod, you probably know how much I love Jason Reynolds' work, and you may have a sense for some of the visual collaborations he's done with different authors. So he has his novel in verse Long Way Down, which he collaborated on with Danica Novgorodov to turn into a graphic novel. And there's an interview online about how he and she worked together and the type of art that she does that helps really represent the ideas and concepts behind Long Way Down. And it's really fascinating, and it's pretty short. There's another short YouTube video online where Jason Reynolds reads from this beautifully illustrated children's book he wrote called There Was a Party for Langston. And again, you just see the way the designs on the page play with the words that he wrote. And then there's another collaboration that he did called Ain't Burned All the Bright. And this isn't like a poem written by Jason Reynolds, illustrated by Jason Griffin. It says Ain't Burned All the Bright is by Jason Reynolds and Jason Griffin. Now, Jason Reynolds wrote the lines and Jason Griffin did the illustrations. And you really can't break them apart and say that only one is like dominating the narrative while the other one is backing them up, right? It's a true collaboration. Both parts of the text tell the story. So these are some examples, and maybe you have more, and maybe you have other incredible children's books and multimodal pieces you want to share with your students. But at this moment in the project arc, you're trying to help them see how they can use multiple modes to express more, to go beyond the words, to showcase meaning through multiple avenues at the same time. That's the goal. So now students are going to start to work on breaking up their lines on the page to create different meaning, adding color, adding illustration to amplify meaning or to add new threads of meaning. They need to think about how, like Jason Reynolds and his collaborators, they can bring multi-dimensional meaning to the page, right? Through the words, through the way the words sit, through the color, through the form of the visuals that surround the words. There are all these different players in the game. Okay, so the final expression, step 4, is to take their verse piece that they've now broken up, that they've started to play with illustration, and transform it into some kind of final canvas or series of canvases. It can be digital, it can be, it could be an actual canvas, it could be their photography with text overlay, it could be a cartoon series with text overlay. Like somehow they're going to have 3 poems that tell the original story of their prose piece and that are illuminated through the choice of visuals. Now, like I said, this project is endlessly variable. You could use it with any verse novel. You could use it as part of multimodal exploration. You could adapt it to just fill some random day in the year where you need something. But one thing that I think would be fun with it would be a Valentine's Day reboot in these next couple weeks, in which students are invited to write their initial piece of short fiction on anything related to love. Love for a person, love for a thing, love for an activity, love for a dream, love for a donut, whatever, right? It doesn't have to be like a super sentimental love poem to somebody that they actually have a crush on. It can just be like a fun twist on love. So, final thoughts. If you feel excited about all these possibilities, there are so many ways you can go with it. You can go with the love thing. You could maybe imagine a transcendentalism themed multimodal flash verse project, a memoir multimodal flash verse project, an American dream multimodal flash verse project. It's really fun to think about ways to craft the starting prompt for these 4 steps that could take you in so many different directions. I also find myself, after creating this project and going through it a couple of times myself, imagining ways to integrate even more modes. Okay, so by the end of this, they're going to have a prose story, a verse story, an illuminated verse story, What if they also created something where the first column was prose and the second two were verse, and they were all illuminated with visuals, and there was also a QR code in the corner of the page leading the reader to hear some kind of musical theme that they've concocted that helps bring forward the theme of the entire piece as a whole? Or what if students actually created paintings and then cut out the words of their verses and stuck the words into the paint while it was still wet, so it was glued on there, and then created like a genuine art gallery of flash verse in the hallway of your building? Or what if the three verses sat on a student-created webpage with time-lapse videos playing out underneath each one? Okay, I better leave it there. I could go on all day. It's so fun to brainstorm like this with you. I bet you're imagining all kinds of possibilities too. So whether you want to go with the multimodal flash verse project in the basic 4 steps or start to even expand in new directions, I just think this is a really fun, flexible project that you can use at any time of year when you have a day, 2 days, 3 days, depending on how big you want to make it. All right, my friend, that's all for today. Until next time, take care of yourself and stay creative.